Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, where last episode we talked to Soseki Natsume and learned all we could about the accusations against him from him, learning that he and the stabbed lady were the only ones on the scene and that she had not yet passed away, being a possible source of information if she pulls through, with Soseki having fled the frightful scene supposedly unseen, with a great Sherlock Sholmes seduction seeing him caught and put behind bars. We then checked out the crime scene itself, meeting with Inspector Gregson and obtaining a map of the local area before heading for Baker Street and entering the famous dwelling to find not the great detective, but the inventor we met at the end of our previous case. Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley. Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? Yes, that's right. What are your names? Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it. Susie and Runo. There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her. I don't know where to start. Yes, and so do I. Why are you carrying a bazooka through London? Iris. Hey, that's my name! It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey. Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though at the time we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Like this? Thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Guinea? Yes, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption? Exactly, so I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Guinea back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Sholmes Sholmes. We live here together. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Your roommates? I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at last this year. Well, what of your mother and father? Oh, no. They're not around. Oh, I see. I wonder what the story is there. Wilson. Oh, yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of the adventure of Sherlock Sholmes and... Oh, you have a copy of Rant's magazine. Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness! Last night, he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you are the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call the latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think. Don't you? Tripped on a cat is weird enough. So, do you mean to say, are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Rant's magazine? All written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Susato-san's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true too. I am a doctor of medicine. No, at 10 years old? At 10 years old. Well, that's quite incredible. But, Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds like a little strange, doesn't it? Yes. A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Susato-san. She looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. So has ours. Your deductions just now. About before. Yes. What's on your mind, Runo? Do tell me. How did you know that I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean? Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted, although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present her logic and reasoning spectacular. First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Runo. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that? I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh! So I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. Ah! They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It's obviously amused him. He told me that he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Mr. Natsume. Now, Runo has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves. So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. So what we've learned so far in Great Ace Attorney is that there's two blundering men that don't really know what they're doing and basically wing it all the time. And then next to them is two stellar women that really actually know what's going on and can draw information out that, you know, do the job better. That's what I'm getting for this thus far. And she's 10. Okay, bitch, ask Hurley about the case, yes. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He's silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. It's way better. It's accurate. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to certain something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. Except with correct information. This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please? So, actually, we've got two choices here, if you really think about it. We could take Iris with us. She could deduce everything accurately. And we could be really good, like, as a team. Or we can just continue on with Herlock and be entertained even more. Entertainment, accuracy. What are we going for here? The case of the Japanese man. So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying? Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently, a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt. Soseki-san said he didn't see anybody else on the street at all, but it seems there were witnesses after all. Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear. Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. We even followed Natsume's kind of alliteration there a little bit. Of course it did. He's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh. Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear. I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is. But in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Well, I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Natsume? Hurley said... yeah, I may as well be pronouncing it like that. Hurley said that he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Ah, goody. In that case... give Gregsy this for me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What is this? A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. Iris's postcard has been entered into the court record with a message on the back from Iris. I want to read it. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Are you bribing him? Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck, then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea. So come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. It looks like we've got ourselves a little bit of a to-be-continued intermission, but now we know what that male voice is introducing the cases that we've had so far, the adventures that we've had. It's a pseudonym voice. Really? That should be an Iris's voice when you think about it. So we return to the scene of the crime to bribe ourselves an inspector. That's pretty much what we're doing, right? It looks as though the police are still here, carrying on with their investigation. Perfect. So let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible. Yes, and let's see if he'll take a break from his chips to look at that silver tip Iris gave us for him. Hi! Do you want to talk about anything else, no? I will present you this, sir. That's very good handwriting. This is a 5-shilling piece, isn't it? I believe it's called a crown? Yes, and you can train a Scotland Yard detective to do whatever you want with just a single one. Iris must be the most powerful 10-year-old in the world. How much is 5 shillings, by the way? What's it really worth? Well, it's probably enough to buy all the chips the inspector could possibly eat in a whole month. That's greasy. And exactly what we're doing it by the look of it. Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment? I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Much too busy to talk to a pair of foreign gadabouts, that's for sure. We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson. What? For me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship? Give that here at once. Come on, hand it over. That's for me. Don't wait for me to give it to you, will ya? What was that coin exactly? It's a silver crown, obviously. But it's a lot more than that. It's an appearance fee. That's what it is. An appearance fee? Oh, I see. You mean... That's right. For the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Her ladyship always offers me a little financial reward for featuring me. Every time. Yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly. Of course, using my name without my say-so does make me the butt of a lot of unpleasant jokes, but still, get a nice financial stipend. I'm sorry, Inspector. That must be difficult for you. Never mind that. So, what do you want to know then, eh? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem, it says. Well, obviously, it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What do you want to know? Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector. We'd very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Ah, the little knife-wielding mustached Japanese fella. He lives in the right old hovel. It's just over there. Look. On the first floor of that house in the corner where that wreck of a bicycle's propped up. That is nearby indeed. Bricked up windows. If I remember rightly, the landlord's a Mr. John Garadeb. Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure you give her ladyship my regards, yeah? I mean it. You tell her that Gregson sends his very best wishes. Don't worry, Inspector. We will. Goodbye for now, then. And long live her ladyship. Well, at least he told us what we wanted to know before he left. Yes. So then, shall we go and see what we can find in Mr. Natsume's lodgings? Definitely. I guess we're moving in. We can't just examine the fact there's bricked up windows. Oh, look at the windows of that building there. Are you sure they're windows? Yes, but they're all filled in with bricks. Oh, you're right. I wonder why. Perhaps there's an empty property where nobody lives at the moment. There's smoke coming from the chimneys, though. Oh dear, everything still feels very foreign. There's so much we have to learn about this place. A look at the bike, too. Oh, a British bicycle, look! Although the wheel is so misshapen, I'm sure it couldn't possibly be ridden anymore. Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling. It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dress to allow them to ride as well. The bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that. Goodness, do you dislike bicycles? No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves taking both your feet off firm ground seems reckless. If you'd ever tried walking on stilts and fallen into a river, I know you'd agree with me. We'll have to hire a bicycle sometime. You can sit behind me while I ride you around. What's with this over here? Well, can't check that out. Anything else to look at? The street. There are piles of snow on the pavement here and there, but the road itself is covered in carriage tracks. It seems carriages often travel down Brea Road. It soon disperses all the snow. I stepped over when I was walking down the pavement earlier. It seems like it would be far safer to walk on the road instead. Oh, but you're rather small, Mr. Naruhodo, and dressed all in black. I worry a coachman might not see you, and you could be flanked by horses. Well, thank you for the rather small concern. Thank you indeed. Doesn't seem to be much else to check out in the meantime. Look at that in the background. Clouds are so big and heavy in the sky, don't they? And with the dense fog as well, everything looks hazy. Well, it is known as Foggy London Town. I could just make out some sort of spire through the fog. It looks like it's being built, though. Aha! Yes! That must be the Crystal Tower being built for the great exhibition that's to open in 6 months' time. Apparently it's going to be very striking, glazed on all sides, and the symbolic centerpiece of the exhibition. This will be the largest exposition in history, is it? I can't even begin to imagine it. I don't know my history exactly for the timing of what I'm about to say, but is this the time of London, the pea supers? I mean, at this time, you know, Industrial Revolution going on and all that, and the build-up of Britain. We were like one of the world's biggest polluters by like far. If you're going to look at it by modern day eyes. And the pea supers, man. Pea supers. Everyone knows about the pea supers, right? That's a rather typical old brick building, isn't it? I'm sure it has a long and interesting history. Well, time certainly seems to have taken its toll on the place. It's crooked and sagging all over. In fact, it looks in decidedly worse shape than the other houses around here. According to Inspector Gregson, that's the house where Mr. Natsume is lodgings. Just across the road from where the incident took place, I see. Must be awful for Soseki-san, getting caught up in something like this in a foreign land. Well, we've checked out the place. I thought we'd do a little bit of exploring of our scenery. Now let's move onwards, as hopefully I've made you all look up pea supers on Google. To Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Some interesting garb, some cannons and more. May I help you? A maid here? Ah yes, would this be the residence of Mr. John Garadeb? Indeed it would, sir. And who may I say is calling? My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Soseki Natsume. I believe he takes lodgings here? We would very much like to ask him some questions about our client. What? One moment, please. I shall convey the message to Mr. Garadeb. Did you see that, Miss Susato? That was a real-life English maid. I know. As I understand it, anyone standing in English society employs a number of household staff. But that was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this day keeps getting better. It suddenly feels like we've really arrived now, doesn't it? And why isn't that window bricked up? We don't need to meet a butler and the experience will be complete. Well, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for waiting. Mr. Garadeb will see you now. This way. Hello, Mr. Garadeb. There's a lot about your room that I'd like to check out. But it seems I can't even converse at this juncture. I can only look. That looks like a Medal of Honor, and it's showcased on a very grand banner. Yes, it's displayed with some pride, I would say, although it bothers me that it's not straight. What? That old thing? Sorry? I should be glad to see the back of it, but the general would turn in his grave if I dispose of it. The wall's the best place for it. Keeps the bally thing out of my way. So it's just being polished to shine by accident, I suppose. There appears to be an inscription on the medal itself. Look, let me see. It says, for distinguished participation. That's not the kind of honors even I could be in line for. Well, one doesn't like to blow one's own trumpet, but I was given that for my time in the army. Can't measure an officer by the number of medals to his name, of course. Common knowledge in military circles. I guess we should investigate you. Good day to you, John Garadeb at your service. Pleased to meet you, sir. This is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. He is a defense lawyer. Do excuse me not getting up. Took a shot to the knee a few years back in the Battle of Maiwan, don't you know? Earned a medal for my pains, but had to withdraw from service. Handed over the reins to the up-and-comings. So he's a retired soldier. It's a hell of a job getting up and downstairs now, I can tell you. Don't get up much as you can imagine. This is quite a climb up here to the second floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. You really must take more exercise, Mr. Naruhodo. Do you think so? Well, Mr. Garadeb, no doubt you were very courageous to earn yourself a medal. Oh, it was nothing. The medal's just a folder roll, really. Wouldn't like to offend the general, though, so I gradually displayed it on the wall. Why don't you fetch it down, Joan? Let these good people see it properly. Joan, fetch the... Ah! Dash it, old woman. Be careful. Oh, dearie me. I do beg your pardon, sir. You jolly nearly took the skin off my hands. I should be more careful, sir. So, anyway, there you have it. Living the quiet life now. Yes, I see. And I wonder if my shout disturbed my neighbors at all. Now then, I hear you want to know about the chap lodging downstairs. Is that right? Yes, we would be very grateful if you could answer some questions for us. Only too pleased, naturally, especially if it helps to keep the peace here in Blighty. We forged an alliance with the Empire of Japan recently, as I'm sure you're aware. So this case is very much in the public eye, as it were. Oh, is it? Even had some famous detective poking around, you know, in this old house, would you believe? Yes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Could have been. Didn't catch the chap's name. Not really my cup of tea, all that detective business. Oh, but you have a copy of Rand's magazine here, so... no. Anyway, the chap's investigating the foreigner's room as we speak. So he's in Soseki-san's room. It's a bloody nuisance is what it is. The whole neighbor's twitching its curtains now. I don't like all this fuss. It's jolly unsettling. Alright then, Mr. Natsume. Well, tell us about Mr. Natsume, Mr. Garadeb. About Mr. Natsume then, Mr. Garadeb. Please do tell us. Ah yes, the Japanese chap. I've only been lodging here for a week. Oh, just 1 week? So you moved in very recently then? I have 2 lodges most of the time, one on the ground floor and one just below us. The first floor room became available a week ago, you see. There'd been... Ah! Dash it all, Joan. Do be careful. Oh, my goodness. I'm terribly sorry, sir. If you want to know my opinion, I thought he was a shady sort from the moment I set eyes on him. Oh, why? He seemed to have a most nervous disposition. always shaking, looking over his shoulder. The man had shady written across his sweat-soaked brow, if you ask me. I said to myself, Joan, that man is trouble. Sooner or later, he's going to do something untoward. And I'm rarely wrong about anything. We won't be calling this maid as a witness, that's for sure. Was there anything else that struck you as suspicious about the man at all? Yes, oh indeed there was. And she's dying to tell us. Well, a shady lodger is something that wants to be spoken about. However, I see the end of another episode fast approaching. And apart from that, the observation is our crescent moon-haired and beard man seems to be silenced a little bit by scolding tea. Is that a thing? We'll find out more as we explore this lodging next time on the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. With Herlock Sholmes below us, let's enjoy one of his great deductions again soon. We'll see. See you next time for more. Bye-bye.